Hey guys, on July 1st, the next huge bait banner drops, and this time it features Argus. So let's take a look at her and talk about why this banner is a huge bait in general. Here we are, and yeah, spoiler alert, and as you probably already know, Argus is in everything that she does heavily outclassed. First, let's take a look at her incantation number 1, as this is already like a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Incantation number 1, that's a 1 target debuff that doesn't deal any damage to begin with, and then it dispels not all buffs, but only stats up and positive status, and it does so only on 1 target, okay? Now let me show you just an example of how crazily outclassed this incantation number 1 of her actually is. To really grasp the severity of it, we can look at Pickle's incantation number 1. That is, first of all, that is a mass attack. It hits 2 enemies and not just 1. It actually deals damage, and if at rank 2, which it will always be, it dispels everything. Not only stats up and positive status, but also counter. On top of that, he will cast this incantation 100% guaranteed every single turn, once at rank 2 as a follow-up attack. It's guaranteed every single turn. It hits 2 targets and it dispels counter things as well. AP, 0 AP, right? AP for free, while Argus uses an AP. Argus only hits 1 target. Argus doesn't deal damage with it, you know? You can already grasp the severity, and of course, right, you can now say, but yeah, the pinpointed stuff, bro, that inflicts damage taken reduction and critical defense, yeah, but Pickles gets clarified topic, which enhances the next incantation or ultimate for Pickles as well. So yeah, that argument doesn't really stick too well, you know. It is a point, because let's move on to her incantation number 2, and here this is also a 1 target attack that actually deals a little bit of damage, and you grant empower incantation 1, but only to yourself, and you need that actually, because her incantation number 1 is so garbage, and it would only inflict 1 stack of pinpointed. But if you now use incantation number 2 to rank up incantation number 1, then you inflict 5 stacks of pinpointed, and yeah, this is where this incantation actually becomes quite decent, you know, still heavily outclassed, don't get me wrong, but at least it becomes decent, because now the numbers add up, and the critical death minus 15% and damage taken reduction minus 50%, they increase to numbers that are actually worth mentioning here. Then she has an ultimate that is again only a 1 target attack that deals considerable damage, and it deals more damage the more pinpoint stacks you actually have applied to your opponent, and those will always be at least 5, you know. But the point is, you can already see, like, she is a support, that's her main use. Sure, she does also deal a little bit of damage, you know, some supports, they are allowed to deal a little bit of damage as well, but this is not the main point, you know. Like, for example, the character 6, you don't use him because his ultimate deals so much damage, you know. You use him to dispel debuffs from your team, to buff your team, to debuff the enemy team, you know. That's why you play the character 6, and not because his ultimate deals a little bit of damage. That is only a bonus, if you will. And the same reasoning here applies for Argus. They are exactly in the same role, they are both supports. And like, what does Argus really do when we talk about like supporting the team? Sure, there is a little bit of, your team will deal a little bit of more damage, and that's pretty much all about it already. She also dispels these positive stats up, these buffs, right? But a character that do all of this much better, such as The best example is Pickles, you know. So then, yeah, since you apply right before the incantations in the AP area resolve a additional incantation called Gravedigger, it will be added to your rotation. And this Gravedigger, this is again a rank 1 incantation. It's a 1 target attack, and it deals damage based on the total amount of ranks of incantations in your rotation. Most of the times, since you use 4 incantations, and all of them will be rank 1, that would lead to a total rank of 4. But now, since Argus empowers her own incantations, you will hit like 5 or 6 ranks most of the time. That increases the incantation rank of Gravedigger to rank 2, and it leads to it dealing a little bit more damage. It is still only 150% reality damage, but you also grant a moxie to yourself. So yeah, you know, it is not too shabby. She's not like complete garbage, but again, she has this problem, first of all, of being outcast. We talked about that. And she is a slottable character. She doesn't have her team where she really belongs and where she is the best in slot. That doesn't exist. But since she is quite decent overall, she's a slottable character. So whenever you would lack like the sub DPS or the support for a team, you can slot her in. That is where her viability, you might say, comes from. That is not true anymore in version 2.8 though. In version 2.8, like pretty much, every single, pretty much, slottable character becomes way worse and loses a shit ton of viability. And that is because all the slottable characters that we have, pretty much, they don't belong in, they have no place in the Blood Tide team. They cannot be played in the Dynamo team, and they cannot be played in Impromptu. And those are the 3 most prevalent teams we have to talk about. That is the main focus. Those are the 3 best teams in the game. And if you don't have a slot anywhere, and you excel at being slottable into pretty much every single team, but you can't be slotted into the best 3 teams in the game, yeah, then your viability gets flushed down the drain, you know? And that is the main number 1 reason why this Argus banner is a complete bait. Of course, also, like, you know, you have to look in the future. We are in 2.7, the 2nd anniversary is right around the corner. And we know everything up until version 3.0 even. And Argus is Euphoria update is nowhere in sight either. So her becoming viable in the near future is also not a thing that exists, you know. And then even you could go further, right? We can talk about if she would receive her Euphoria update in, let's speculate, in version 3.1. Who says she's not gonna be part of the Euphoria banner there, and then she would be obtainable cheaper, you know? So yeah, many reasons as to why this Argus banner that drops really soon will be an absolute bait, and no one should ever even consider pulling on this banner. I know, yeah, there are people that even pull on the Aleph banner that don't even play Impromptu to begin with, and then they try to come up with arguments why Aleph is actually playable outside of Impromptu, you know? The point is, you don't want to be one of these. You don't want to be in this situation where you would do something like this, because you make an absolute fool of yourself. So yeah, this is enough. We now know what Argus does, where she belongs. Nowhere, unfortunately. She has no future, no Euphoria update, doesn't belong in one of the best teams in the game, and therefore I would highly advise you to not pull on a spanner, no matter what you might think and no matter how much you might love Argus. She's garbage, okay? And that's it for the video, guys. If you like Reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. I hope this video was fun and informative, but until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.